everybody, welcome back to my channel. I've been gone a minute. Haven't really been feeling very artsy lately. But I feel like this is a good one to pick back up on. So when I originally drew this out, I drew it on a 5x7 watercolor canvas panel. And me not thinking, I drew directly onto the canvas, and every place that I used an eraser, the watercolor would just run away and not work. And I don't know if it's because I ruined the watercolor aspect of it. I didn't try to go much further than that. I probably could have used acrylic paints, did not want to. So I decided to transfer it over to, I don't even know what you would call this. It's a really thick piece of paper. It's not cardstock though. It's like thicker than that. It's like a board. So I transferred it onto there, and I just did that by tracing over the original drawing that I did on the watercolor panel, and then put graphite on the back and put it onto here. So my original plan was shot, but I did the next best thing I knew how to do, which was obviously the colored pencil. And I ended up liking the way that it turned out. So everything did not go according to plan. And at some point, I would like to have a picture like this that I can revisit with watercolor. I think it'd be a lot of fun. I'm trying to learn watercolor a little bit better than what I got going on. So with this, I picked out all of my colors, tried to limit myself. It never works that way. I love using a bunch of different colors. So it is what it is. But I did select out my colors and then didn't go back for any other colors for the rest of the piece. So like the flowers turned out more orange, which worked out in the end because the bird has really bright orange on its belly and face. And then I had like this super like minty green on one of the leaves, and I ended up using that in the blue part of the bird. So I was really trying to make the piece itself cohesive. And like through here, I was trying to burnish the page with a bright yellow, so that way I didn't use white to like, what is that? Blend everything together. And then you see me working here for a minute, and then I go back to that first flower and color over what I did with white, and I kicked myself in the butt because I did not like what the white did, because obviously that's going to change the hue of all the colors there. And normally that's what I do in a lot of my pictures. In that certain case, I did not like it. So that is the only one that I go back and put the white on there. And then you'll also see me shade with darker colors, and then the darkest parts I go back in with black. That's because I like the contrast there. I know a lot of people tell you, oh, don't use straight black or don't use straight white. I like it. I'm going to continue to do it. So these first three flowers, I went through the entire flower, the middle, and the petals, shading the highlights. These next ones, I'm just showing you kind of where the flowers are at, and then going through and doing the centers on them, and then we skip over to the leaves. And then the first two leaves, I again screwed up on. Like I said, nothing was going according to plan. I don't know how it happened, but it did. I had a fluorescent colored pencil in with the colors that I had picked out. I avoid the fluorescence in this specific set of colored pencils. I'm using color brand, because when you use them as a base color, it's very hard to get anything else on top of it, even if you don't color super hard. So it was a light layer, and then I realized what it was. And then I was like, well, crap, because it's never a good thing when you have a big area that you've already colored, and like it almost made me want to give up because it was not taking any other colors over top of it, and it's this one right here. But in the end, I ended up going back and using that color again on the smaller leaves, and again kicked myself in the pants for it, just because of how hard it is to cover up. But at the point that I did it, I needed things to kind of flow together. So I needed that green to not be concentrated on the bottom of the piece and be kind of spread out throughout it. So learn from my mistake. Don't use fluorescent colors as a base layer. It's not fun. And after I got these first two leaves done, I switched over to like a mint green, and that would be the one that I put throughout the blue parts of the bird. So yeah, it's this one right here. I don't know what it is, what color it is. It's like a minty green. But I use that. You can see the slight color difference. And I, again, was beating myself up over not making sure that I didn't have fluorescent colors, because normally I have them in a separate cup. So I have all my colored pencils in cups. I usually have it in a separate cup, put way far away. There's something that my kids like to use, and I don't know how that specific green made it back into my normal cups, but here we are. So like I said before, what I like to do is I like to go in with darker colors of the same not hues, darker shades of the same color. There we go. To kind of shade everything. And then for my darkest parts, I do go back in with pure black. And those are the black and the white that I use. Those are the only two Prismacolors that I actually use. Unless I'm doing something on like a toned piece of paper. And even then, 9 times out of 10, I choose the Color brand over the Prismacolors. The only reason why I use the black and the white Prismacolor with the color pencils on top is because they go over everything. Whereas, like, if I tried to use the Color brand ones, they just scrape off the previous layers. And the Prismacolors are so soft that they just kind of lay right on top. So I use that for the black and the white. Basically, the darkest shadows and my highlights, I am using Prismacolor pencils because they go over the other colored pencil really, really easy. But I do have a set of Prismacolors, but I prefer these ones. I prefer the Color brand. And like I said, the black and the whites just literally because they're so buttery, they go over everything. And that maybe that's my problem with them. Like using the set that I have is because they go over each other too well, and then I'm not getting like the color shifts that I want because they're just going over top of one another. That could be it. Who knows? I'm a weird duck. It's fine. So once I map out where I want my darks and my lights to be, I go through and really emphasize those when I'm burnishing. So that's why everything looks smooth. I don't use any solvents or anything like that. It's literally just me pushing really hard with the colored pencil over the page. And I'll usually choose, like, the base layer is a light color. I will usually choose that base color again to burnish over top of everything else. And that is how I get everything to kind of blend together and look right. That's just my way of doing it. I'm sure there's a million trillion other ways. So, again, you can take mine with a grain of salt. That's just how I like to do it. That's my style. Um, and then I wanted to talk about the background with this as well. I was going to do a metallic gold. I decided against it and went black. Now, and this is my thing. So the metallic gold would go over the black, but the black would not go over the metallic gold if I put it down. So I did it black, and then I was so worried that the gold would be abrasive to the eyeballs after I did the black. I want to do a piece like this and do the gold. I want to be... I wish I could say I'm that person that doesn't care what people think of their art, but I'm not. So, whereas, yeah, I can be judged on like 20 different things with this piece, and that's fine. Like, I'm not oblivious to the fact that, yeah, I could have did it more realistic, but I don't. That's just not how my style is, which is fine. A lot of people will come at me for using straight black. That's fine. But what my brain can't comprehend is when I put all this time and effort into it, and whereas I would have liked the background gold, 9 out of 10 people probably wouldn't, so I didn't. And honestly, at this point, I need to come to terms with, I need to do stuff that makes me happy, that I like. And if those 9 other people don't like it, that's fine. I need to get over, the fear of somebody coming up to me and saying, oh, I don't like that. That's fine. You're entitled to your opinion. And I'm sure I could have, to those 9 people that would have said that to the gold background, I probably have 9 other people that would have said a gold background would have looked better. And you know what? I don't think art is so subjective. But like in my mind, because I made this piece to sell, it wasn't for any person in particular. So I do a lot of like art shows, and so I always have in the back of my mind, what are most people going to like? Most people are going to like a neutral background, a black, a white, a solid color that's not shiny, that's not metallic, it's not gold. And at this point of me doing art, I think I just need to do what makes me happy and not what would most people like to buy. I'll find those weirdos who like a gold background like I do. I'll find those weirdos. And then, I might just have to hang on to it longer than what I was planning on, which that's not necessarily a bad thing. With my art, I have nail holes all over my house for me hanging up my art, so I can have it hanging up while I'm not doing shows. So I get to enjoy it, and then when that piece sells, I fill that hole with something else that I like. Like, that's how I do it. And I enjoy having my stuff hanging. So, like, why didn't I do the gold background? Well, because it would be less likely to sell. But that doesn't mean that I shouldn't have done it. So I'm just trying to I need to put my big girl pants on and just start being more true to myself, I guess. So this is abnormal for me to have any kind of anything with the animal. Usually I just draw just the animal. It's plain, it's simple, it's a lot of times it's more detailed than what this bird is. But I enjoyed what I did here. So to me, I feel like I should do more of what makes me happy. And so I think I'm going to start doing that. I've been kind of in a art rut, and I don't know if that's because, in my mind, I wasn't happy with what I was doing, even though everything turned out looking the way that I wanted it to, and I liked it, and, all of that noise. But I wasn't getting the enjoyment out of it because it was just, I would find a reference photo and then put it down on paper and try to be as detailed as possible. Whereas with this one, I got the general gist of what was going on with this bird, colors, that kind of thing. And then I shut off the reference and just went with what felt right. I didn't look at where the shadows and highlights were coming from. I didn't, look at if it was iridescent or not, or, I got the general idea of which direction the feathers were going and the colors of the bird, and then I let my mind go from there. And I enjoyed this so much more than sitting there staring at a photo going, is this right? And I think a lot of that is like, I'm trying to get it perfect. Even though I wouldn't even say my art's even close. There are so many other people out there that they do realism so much better than I could ever hope to do. And so like with mine, why not do something that I enjoy? And even if that's semi-realism, like I have here, I would say this is semi-realistic. You can tell what it is. It's got, the direction and everything that it's supposed to be. But I enjoyed doing this way more than I would have if I would have sat there and stared at a photo for hours trying to make it look as realistic as possible. So I'm going to be changing what I'm doing as far as my own art goes to make myself happy and stop worrying about what other people may or may not say about my art. That's fine with me. I'm getting to that point where I think I'm finally reaching that point where I will please those very few people with my art to make myself happy rather than what can I do to please the majority of people with my art. So, it is what it is at this point. I enjoyed this piece. Would I change things? Yes. But I would change them for myself and not for the others around me. And I think a lot of people need to reach that point of just, let's not care what other people say. I mean, I know it's hard. It's hard. But you got to do what you enjoy. And that's kind of, I've reached that point. So I have another piece in the works right now. A lot of it has not been filmed. But you best believe that I'm going to do everything the way that I want it to be done and not worry about what other people say. So this is the piece in the frame. That was the whole reason I did it. And then I'll give you a close-up look, and I will see you guys the next time. Bye.